guys, hello, hi, welcome back to my channel, or if you're here, hello, hi, welcome to my channel where I talk about books. And this video is pretty special because for the first time on the history of this channel, I'm actually going to be tier ranking books. You heard it right, okay? So in the past 3 months, I have not been able to make a wrap up video, and I decided that the best way to wrap up my 17 books that I read in September, October and November can be done through the tier ranking system. So I do not know how this is going to go, but there are a number of books that I've read and I want to talk about. So let's just get started. Let me tell you what are the ranks on this particular tier chart. Okay, so the first and the topmost rank is Shut Up and Take My Money, and this is generally something that's 4.5 stars plus, be it like 5 stars, 4.5 stars. This is generally Shut Up and Take My Money. The second one is 4 stars. Typically it could have been perfect except for a few flaws. Anything between 3 and 4 is generally just consumes bookshelf space, and then there's the neutral face emoji, and then there's an utterly useless book just like your life with the poo emoji. And if you want reference to this particular tier ranking, it's actually a part of my Goodreads. Link to my Goodreads down below, where I actually talk about how I actually rank my books on Goodreads, so you can check that out for reference. Starting with the first book that I read in September, and that is So Now You Know by Vivek Tejuja. So this book is basically about the author's experiences. It's a memoir coming from a very traditional Sindhi family in South Bombay and his coming out journey, and how his relationship is currently with his family members and things like that. And of course, Vivek Tejuja is a very famous bookstagrammer. He's a very famous not booktuber, book reviewer actually, and I've been following him since his Flipkart days. So thank you Neetu for gifting me this book. I actually got this book from one of my subscribers. I like this book. It's like not the best book out there, but it's not like a bad book as well. It was a very nice read for me, and I could relate with a lot of aspects, especially when it came to his childhood and the things he had to face. So I am going to be putting this in could have been perfect except for a few flaws. And this is not because there are like actual flaws in the book. It just felt like we didn't get like the complete story, and I really wanted like a complete story. But this book did affect me, and I'm okay with it, although I would like to read more on the same. Then getting to the next book that I finished, which was an ARC that I received from Penguin Southeast Asia, and that is Joy by Angelo La Cuesta. Now honestly, this book is, I would say, not the greatest book on planet Earth. For me, I really didn't like it much. It's basically like a good premise. It's about an absent father and how a protagonist is growing up in the Philippines just with a mother, and how it's affected him, how it's affected his childhood, how it's affected his whole life in general. But honestly, it did not affect me much, and that's why this book is in just consumes bookshelf space. Because honestly, if this book was if this book was like that bad, then I would have put it in the section below. But it was like not that bad. It's just that I was very neutral towards it. And maybe if you are from the Philippines, you'll like this book. But I am not from the Philippines, and maybe it's a cultural difference. So I did not like it that much. Getting to the next book that I read, and I've spoken about this before in my BookTube rankings video down in the description box, and that is Facing the Mountain by Daniel James Brown. Let me tell you, I absolutely devoured this book. I do not want to go on a repeat session here because I've already covered it well in the video below. But let me tell you, it's an amazing piece of storytelling, especially when it comes to how Japanese Americans were treated during World War II by the American government. Of course, Shut Up and Take All My Money, because I absolutely loved it so much. Like I said, I love this book and I highly recommend it. And on the same lines, basically, because I had started reading Facing the Mountain, and I wanted to learn more about the entire concentration camp that was set up for Japanese Americans. I read They Called Us Enemy by George Takei, who's actually a very famous actor, and he was one of the characters on Star Trek. Basically, this is a graphic novel which talks about his experience as a young boy in these camps and what his family had to endure. It also kind of talks a little bit about the things that are spoken about in Facing the Mountain. Of course, I don't want to spoil it, so there is some kind of overlapping stuff because it's history and history has to stay true basically. And I like this book. If you are starting off with this topic, then I recommend this graphic novel because it's much more lighter, has much less content, but the illustrations are very nice. And then maybe you can go to Facing the Mountain to know like an in-depth story. The reason why I put They Called Us Enemy in could have been perfect except for a few flaws is simply because, like I said, the content, like the content is very minimal, the illustrations are nice, and of course my rating is not based on the experiences of the author at all. No, it is based on how the book is presented, how the book is written, and I think the book was presented in a good way. However, there could have been more content which I was getting from Facing the Mountain that could have been added in this book. But overall, this book was good. I think this is a good place to start, but there's only lack of content. And then getting to another book that I did rave about in the video of the BookTube finals, and that was Empire of Pain by Patrick Radden Keefe. Honestly, anything that Patrick Radden Keefe writes, I am going to read it. I absolutely loved Say Nothing. I absolutely love this book as well. I love this one better than Say Nothing because I just felt like this had like much more connection to the current situation that's going on in the US, especially with the opioid crisis. And it's a warning, right, for other countries as well on how you should not let pharmaceutical companies get off hand and just run the show, because apparently this is what happens. Like it'll just lead to like a public health crisis. So of course this is in Shut Up and Take My Money. Then we come to, I think this is like the last book that I read in September for the BookTube prize, because I had to put my ratings and rankings in September for that. And this is Chasing Me to My Grave by Winfried Rembert, which is an art memoir. So if you are like me and you love art, then I recommend this book because it is a memoir with paintings in it. And when I say paintings, these are not like actual paintings. Even I mistook them for paintings, but these are actually leather, like etched leather works, right? So basically, Winfried Rembert has portrayed his life. His life is pretty interesting, to be honest. I would say a very, very picturesque format on leather, where he carves leather out and dyes leather, and that's what the artwork is. That's what the painting, if you can say so, is. Now, I did like this book a lot. It is, of course, one of the most unique books I've read in 2022. But honestly, I did feel like the text portion of it tend to, it got a bit boring after a point of time, and that's why I've put this in could have been perfect except for a few flaws. So I don't have words for it on why am I putting it here, but it just felt a bit incomplete. It just felt a bit boring at many places, and I think a better job could have done in expressing the prose much better. I think that's what I can say about it. That gets me to the last read of September. Yes, I did read a lot of books in September, and that is The Guest List by Lucy Foley. Now, honestly, I was reading a lot of nonfiction. My brain was utterly clogged, and I really needed something which is a breeze of a read, and I decided to read Lucy Foley for some reason, and I absolutely love The Guest List. It did the job. It worked like magic. I gave it 5 stars. Shut Up and Take My Money, 100%. And then we come to October, and the first book that I finished in October was a pharma book. Like, it was an epiphany, and that is Bottle of Lies by Catherine Eban. Bottle of Lies basically is a book that's based on the generic drug industry, and the generic drug industry is mainly concentrated in India. Although, the drugs are being used by people in the US or in Europe, wherever it is, it's in India that these drugs are produced, and it's Indian organizations that produce them. And this book basically gets out the regulatory and corrupt issues that we see in these companies. Now, maybe not all companies are corrupt, but then this one specifically focuses on Ranbaxy, which actually closed down due to corruption, due to fake test results, and due to a lot of things. You can say that this was more like the Theranos of India, to be honest, but then Theranos closed recently and Ranbaxy closed before that. So I recommend this book. It's a pure work of non-fiction, amazing investigative journalism. And of course, the reason I read this was because I read Empire of Pain, and this has to go in Shut Up and Take My Money. So moving to the next book that I read, and this was something that was interesting, and that is The Wounds of the Dead by Vikram Paralkar. Now I did have a physical copy of this book, and I wanted to read it like for a while now, and it was a short book. I picked it up, I read it, I did like it. Like I gave it a good 4 stars. However, when I think about the book in retrospect, it did not affect me much. And the reason I say that it did not affect me much is because it was magic realism. It talks about a doctor in a remote village in Maharashtra. That's where Vikram Paralkar is from. Like currently he's based in the US and enjoying his life there. But it's just that it's a good piece of magic realism. I think I would recommend it. But magic realism is honestly not my taste. It's not my genre. And that's why I decided that I have to put this in Just Consume's bookshelf space. I still have it on my shelf behind. But you know what? This is in Just Consume's bookshelf space. And in continuation to that, I also want to mention that I read another Lucy Foley book, and that is The Hunting Party, and this also needs to be placed somewhere. So I did like The Hunting Party, of course not as much as The Guest List. I do recommend it for a breeze, for a light read, but I did find the characters confusing in The Hunting Party. So with the rankings ratings, I'm putting Hunting Party in could have been perfect, except for a few flaws, especially with the number of characters and the confusion that's created on the audiobook, and just consumes bookshelf space for The Wounds of the Dead by Vikram Paralkar. And then I decided to read something very small, short, and short story-esque, and that was Padmavati and the Harlot and Other Stories by Kamla Das, translated from Malayalam. The thing is that with this book, I was not expecting much, but I knew that the stories would be good. And the stories were good, some were okay. And since some were just okay, I just put, this book in 4 stars. I could have been perfect except for a few flaws. Like, you really need to affect me a lot, like Empire of Pain, Facing the Mountain, The Guest List, or Bottle of Lies, to be in the top category. Otherwise, you just find yourself in the bottom category, to be honest. And then I decided to pick up non-fiction again after like couple of fiction books, and that's why I read The Good Girls by Sonia Filero. And this is actually again a piece of investigative journalism from India, which talks about the death of our 2 girls in Uttar Pradesh. And this is, of course, based on a true story. It's about a lot of things and how, the media in India or the security establishment in India did not take things a lot seriously until the parents protested. And it covers a lot of aspects of modern day India in general, especially modern day UP in general. There are a lot of theories around this particular case, right, that people still debate till today. But I just felt like the narration was not good, although the content was nice, and there were a lot of things that were mentioned in the book that was worth thinking about. But I did not like the way the book was, the subject matter was executed. It could have been in a much better way, but then that's okay. I think this is the author's first book maybe, and I need to give it another chance. So I have given this book 4 stars and put it in could have been perfect except for a few flaws. Then I ended up reading a book that everybody loves, and that is M and the Big Home by Jerry Pinto. And if you follow me on Instagram, you know what is coming up. I know. I actually didn't enjoy this book much. It is a 3.5 stars from me. I think only the end 10% was good, and I kept thinking whether I should DNF it, but the other people on Instagram were like, no, you should not DNF it, I should finish it. And I'm glad I finished it, because the end was what made the entire book worth, and that's why it's 3.5 stars. But honestly, it just consumes bookshelf space for me. It's not there on my bookshelf, but it's there on my Kindle. And honestly, now I'm thinking, why did I spend so much money buying the book when I could have just got the book for free maybe? I don't know. But I'm sorry, I didn't like the book. And that's why this is in Just Consume's bookshelf space. And that gets me to another nonfiction book that I ended up reading after Jerry Pinto, and that is My Fourth Time We Drowned. Oh, I'm telling you, Sally Hayden is one of my favorite authors, especially writing nonfiction and investigative nonfiction. I'm telling you, read the audiobook. Okay, it's a total shut up and take my money for me. Like, as you can see on the screen, shut up and take my money, because this book talks about the reality of the immigrant crisis that we have between Africa and Europe. It basically talks about the corruption that the you know Europeans have imbibed to ensure that people do not come into their continent, and just like stopping them at Libya, and how there are these concentration camps or these horrendous labor camps at Libya where these poor refugees are made to work without UN assistance, of course, and they are just like slaves. Okay, heartbreaking book, has audio recordings of a lot of things, and kudos to Sally Hayden for actually unearthing this whole situation, being a European herself. Like, she's Irish basically. Yeah, that's all I can tell you. That's all I can say. And then after reading so many heavy books like The Good Girls and My Fourth Time Beat Round, I decided to read something super light, and this time it was This Is Going to Hurt by Adam Kay. Now, this is more of a comic series book which talks about Adam Kay's adventures when he was in NHS, which is the health system in the UK. So he was a doctor, and currently he does not practice. It talks about a lot of comical situations that he has been in with patients, but on the other side, he does also. I mean, thinking about the book makes me laugh, and that's why this isn't shut up and take my money. As you can see, like, honestly, just shut up and take my money. But I think the main reason I love this book is the message that it had to provide on how every country needs to treat its doctors. Like, especially he has an, his messages to the NHS that, listen, doctors are humans as well, and you need to treat them as humans. And I think the same goes for a lot of countries where doctors are overworked. They have to take like double shifts to night shifts, and it's a tough life being a doctor, right? And it stands true, like, even in India, to be honest. So absolutely love this book. Shut up and take my money. Do read it. I highly recommend it for sure. And I read something called The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. Yeah, we have 3 Lucy Foley books on this list. I know, right? Because I was like, every time I felt like my brain was clogged, every time I felt like my brain needed something light, I would just turn to Lucy Foley and be like, Lucy Foley, you are my savior. Please give me one of your books. And then I would listen to one of her books and feel okay again. But honestly, I think I stopped after The Paris Apartment, because as you can see, it just consumes bookshelf space. Okay, oh, okay, fine. The book was not that great. It was it was not The Hunting Party or The Guest List. It was something different altogether, and it just felt like a Bollywood movie. Okay, it was written for a movie deal. I'm telling you, okay? The Paris Apartment was written for a movie deal, and I hope they don't make a movie of it, because it's like that bad. But honestly, it did give me that kind of breezy, windy, breezy feeling, and I did feel like refreshed after reading this book, although the book was not like that great. So that's why I'm just keeping it in just consumes bookshelf space, and not like an utterly useless book and poo 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 poo, basically. That gets me to the second last book I read, that is in November, and that is Twisted by Chandrima Das. And this is like an Audible special audiobook only. It basically talks about a lot of things in terms of horror. Like, there are these 3 stories which are, I won't say paranormal, but they are like scary in general, and it's best to read it. Maybe it felt like I was celebrating Halloween in November. You get me? But honestly, it was good. It was decent. It was a good short read, and I'm okay with it. So it could have been perfect, except for a few flaws. And that gets me to the last book that I read this month, that is November, and that is Mexican Gothic. Why did I read this book? It's a shit book. Don't read it. Absolutely horrendous. Okay, I have realized this, that my reading tastes do not match with a lot of people online, and I need to stop picking up books based on their hype, because I did not like Emma and the Big Home. I did not like Mexican Gothic, and I should just do my thing, to be honest. Like, literally literally I should just do my thing, okay? I am putting this book in an utterly useless book, just like your life, because the build up was very slow. Like till 80%, I was just thinking and like, okay, fine. Like, why am I reading this book? Like, that was my question. And the moment they reveal the entire plot, I'm like, what the, like, like, why? Like, why? Like, what's this? And although I do get it, like by the end of it, it did turn out to be like a very nice read. But yeah, it just didn't work out for me, especially because of like the first 80%, and then after 80%, whatever happened, like it was really bad timing. I felt the book had very bad timing, and I was not even scared throughout the book. Like, yeah, I was scared at the end for the characters, but then otherwise, I was not at all scared. Yes, that's it. That's it for this wrap up. I hope you liked it, and it was very nice doing this because I've never done a tier wrap up, tier ranking wrap up, if you may. And I like doing this. I hope you also liked it as well, and you also got some recommendations. Anything on the top that is shut up and take my money should be your jam, and you should read those books because I absolutely love them and I recommend them. Even I recommend maybe like the books where I said could have been perfect except for a few flaws. I'm okay with that as well. Go ahead, take it, read them as well, but please don't read like the other two tiers, honestly. But yeah, up to you. Maybe you like those books that I didn't like. Maybe you like Mexican Gothic as well. So that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.